Hello and welcome to Patrick's Models and Transports. Now that the Kleinbahn D120 is having a rest in the sidings, the powerful Chapelon 231 C60 express locomotive is going to take over the French express train, which is waiting over there. We're just going to reverse and go and couple up with the fantastic saucisson motor. I think that's coupled no problem. Some wheel slip there and some derailment from our dear friend the Hachette carriage, Orient Express thingy. Oh, I nearly did some damage to a lorry here with a tripod, you useless. I'm really being a useless Eustace tonight. Okay, let me just sort this out. I think we're going to have to run this thing here in the other direction. I'm going to have to make the express external line here to run fussy trains on. Okay. Let's go and see what happens. Oh, it passed. I'm just leaving the camera right there. Let's see what happens. It's passing behind us now. Let's see if this restaurant car derails again. I'm at 75%. No. If you're at speed, it's okay. Alright, okay. Right, we're at speed. It's a fantastic locomotive. The wheels are gear driven, brass gears. Nice carriage. And great puller, this locomotive. I really advise you, if you manage to get one cheap, and I got this one here cheap, I don't remember what I paid, but it was definitely under the 40 mark, 40 euros definitely, for less. That's 25 or something at a time, or 30. Lovely locomotive. And this is the one that fell on the floor. I was testing it once and it shot off the track, landed on the floor, one buffer broke and I repaired it, and the front bogie atomized, meaning the wheels came off and I had to go mad to find things under the furniture, but I managed to get it all back together again. Let's do some express running. So the restaurant car is happy if you go over the points at speed. It doesn't like to crawl. Okay. This is what model trains are all about. Running them around on your layout, whether it's a big, large one, size of a room, or a small thing, 1 meter 60 by 80, that when you're not using it, you put it there behind the door. And up on the wall, there's a picture of my great-grandfather who fought the Great War. We'll talk about him in another video. Corporal James Hinselwood. Lucky man, he came back from the Great War. These saucisson motor 231 C60s have got cult following in France. They improve them, they add lighting, they do all sorts of things. It was really the first, the moment when Jouef passed from toy trains to model trains, but this was still a very efficient toy train. Something you could put on your carpet and run and play. A simplified valve gear, powerful motor. Then when the tooling of these motors began wearing out, they moved to these smaller motors, and they made this very same locomotive, the 231 C60, they made it with a tender drive, with absolutely pathetic. I'm going to stop it that way you can hear me ranting better. I'm stopping with the locomotive here in view. So this is engine drive, right? This is an engine drive locomotive. The motor is a big long thing. I think I've shown, there's a video, I'll put the link in the description, where I show different types of motors, and you can see a video of the saucisson sausage motor. So it's got a great big long motor in here, big can motor, powerful, with ball bearing supports. Magic, absolutely. So at one point they stopped producing these motors. I read various versions. The tooling was getting worn out, and they were probably becoming, they were too expensive to make, more likely, and also they didn't fit in all other types of locomotives. But in reality, this same motor with this has got the drive gear only at one end, but you can have it with a double drive gear at both ends, and it's excellent for the kind of chassis that we built the rail car on. No, the freelance rail car, there it is over there, the blue and white one. No, so they stopped making them and they switched to different smaller open frame 3-pole motors, which honestly are good. Some are a bit growly, but as long as you've got those, I'm not against you. Some people say the Jouef motors are nothing special, they're not great. Honestly, I find Jouef motors to be okay. What I don't find okay are some of the drive gears. So I really like the steam locomotives, the engine driven locomotives, the 140, 140, that's a smashing locomotive. Now I don't remember its full name right now. That's really nice. The one built by North British Locomotive Company during the First World War. That is an absolutely lovely locomotive with, it's got, okay, they have the belt drive, it has a 5-pole motor, very good motor. There's the 040 TA shunting locomotive with a belt drive, the 5-pole motor. I've got the version with a 3-pole motor and the brass drive gear, which is also good. Yes, it's a bit stingy on pickups, but then they improved it when they made the 5-pole motor, they put extra pickups. But definitely they're okay. I don't agree on what they did when they made the tender driven steam locomotives, on tender locomotives, because I'll just show you what's what. In this case here, you can see loco driven, away you go with your tender. So on the tender driven version of this, it's exact same or very similar tender. This is very light, and underneath one bogie picks up electricity and the other bogie is powered by a 3-pole motor, maybe in some versions also a 5-pole motor, later versions, with traction tires on all wheels of the driven bogie, and so practically this thing here in tender drive form, it only picks up from one bogie, and that means that, you know, you might have problems on points. I can see on the rail car chassis over there that picks up from only one bogie, and sometimes it gets stuck on points. So the whole point of having a tender locomotive with a whole lot of wheels, and the dummy locomotive on the tender driven version doesn't have any electrical pickups, which at least on the version of this sort of cheaper budget version that they made of the 231 C60 in tender driven form. I don't like tender driven steam locomotives. I admit that. It's a bee on my bonnet. I don't like them. I like to have my wheel slip. I like to be able to see the power, you know, out of the locomotive. It's just a thing of mine. That's it. And it's just good fun. It's like playing trains. But I would, if I ever come across a tender driven version of these, or of any other Jouef tender locomotive, if I get a bargain price, I might even get one, just for the sake of seeing how it behave. But it's, and many people, even French enthusiasts, people never understand why they made this move, when anyway they were still making an excellent, the 140 C31, that's what it's called. They were still making excellent loco driven tender locomotives. So why not use the same engineering, pickup engineering and drive engineering for, and the 140 is a relatively small locomotive. You've seen it, so we can talk about this on a separate video. And this is a bigger locomotive, and there are even bigger locomotives which are tender driven, and I'll never understand why they did that. Maybe it was cheaper, because it's cheaper just to have a motor bogie, and but then a motor bogie which is terrible to do maintenance on because it's got through axles. I saw a video of another YouTuber, now I can't remember, I also follow him and we've been commenting, but right now his name slips me. I haven't done my homework. He's just acquired one of these in tender driven version. I'll try and put it in the description box for you, and that way you can go and see his locomotive. And it's exactly the tender driven version of this locomotive here. Okay, so I've been ranting for far too long. This is a 13-minute 26 video. Let's just give our train a final lap and we'll call it a day. On we go. And we'll pull up at the station. Well, station. We've pulled up halfway over the over the layouts. Let's just do another lap. I always say I'll do another lap on this locomotive. I just can't stop. Okay, that's us. Perfect. We'll park here. Right. Cheerio, and see you next time. Let me know what you think about tender-driven locos and loco-driven locos. For example, I know that a tender-driven loco with a Lima motor is probably more efficient. And the important thing of the tender-driven loco is that it has to have pickups in the locomotive, but not to have a complete dummy locomotive that doesn't pick anything up. This is the problem Jouef did. This was Jouef's solution. Completely dummy locomotive, it doesn't even pick up electricity, and all the pickup done by one bogie and the drive done by the other bogie. So practically you've got the same pickup characteristics of a very short wheelbase 040 on Insail Frogs. So that's that. I've been ranting enough. Cheerio, and let me know what you think. And cheerio, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.